Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Leon Gaming Halloween Special. For this Halloween, we're taking a look at spooky Infernities. These guys, they were terrifying back in the day. Now, not so much. Starting off with Infernity General. When you have no cards in hand, you can banish it from your graveyard to summon 2 level 3 or lower Infernity from your grave, but their effects are negated. You run this at 1. It's decent revival, but it's a level 7, so it can be a brick. Same goes for Infernity Destroyer. When it destroys a monster by battle, you can inflict 1600 damage to your opponent, but you have to have no cards in hand. So, again, debatable, but you can dump it with some of the Infernity cards and revive it fairly easily, so it's decent. Next up is Infernity Archfiend, and if I could run this thing at 3, I would 1000% do it, because here's its effect. When you draw it, if you have no other cards in hand, you can reveal it, special summon it. When it's special summoned, you can add 1 Infernity card from your deck to your hand. You have to have no cards in hand to resolve it. This isn't once per turn, and searches the entire archetype on any form of special summon, not even its own effect. So if you use any of Infernity's many revival options to get this thing out, it searches anything in the archetype. You would play 3 of them if you weren't limited to 1. Next up is Patriarch. If it's the only card in your hand, you can special summon it. You can only summon it this way once per turn. If you have no cards in hand and an Infernity monster will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this from your graveyard instead. It's protection, and it's a decent body that you can special summon if you have no other cards in hand. So, it's good, I guess. Now we're on to Infernity Wildcat. You can special summon it by sending 1 other Infernity monster from your hand to the graveyard. You can only special it once per turn this way. While you have no cards in hand, you can banish an Infernity from your graveyard to increase or decrease the level of this card by 1, and you can only do this once per turn. Wildcat is great. It's a tuner that can modulate its level. Has a special summoning condition that dumps Infernity from hand. Yeah, you run 3, no questions. Then we have Infernity Conjurer. If you have no cards in hand, your opponent's monsters lose 800 attack, and when you have no cards in hand and it's in your graveyard, you can special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field, and you can only use this effect once per turn. Literally, you use Wildcat, dump Conjurer, summon Conjurer, without using a normal summon. You run 3. Then we have Tour Guide from the Underworld. Not an Infernity card, but it's decent. When it's normal summoned, you can summon 1 level 3 or lower Fiend monster from your hand or deck, but negate its effects, and it can't be used as synchro material. The best Infernity are level 3. Did you miss the part where I talked about the last 3 Infernity being amazing? Last 2 Infernity being amazing and level 3? You run 3. Then we have Necromancer. He's very broken. When it's normal summoned, it's changed to defense position, and when you have no cards in hand, you can special summon 1 Infernity monster from your graveyard. This is not once per turn. So if you have multiples of this, you can use each of their effect once, and then if you send it to the graveyard and summon it again, you can use it again. Basically, you loop this thing as hard as humanly possible. Use it to summon multiple summons of Archfiend, to search multiple cards, to summon more things, to search more things, to summon more things. Yeah, you run 3. Then we have Sage. During your main phase, you can discard your entire hand. Yeah. And when it's sent to the graveyard, you can send an Infernity monster from your deck to your graveyard. So this thing not only empties your hand so you can use your Infernity effects, but when it's sent, it foolish burials any Infernity. Like Patriarch for protection, Archfiend to get a revival off of it, Conjurer to special summon it, General to summon 2 from grave, and the next one, Infernity Avenger, our next card. When a monster you control, except Avenger, is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard while you have no cards in hand, you can special summon it, and it becomes the level of the destroyed monster. It's a level 1 tuner, so it's always good, and it can be extra chump blocking during the battle phase. Also, look at his face. He's terrifying. I love him. Then we have Infernity Mirage. Can't be special summoned from your graveyard. Ooh, spooky. When you have no cards in hand, you can tribute this card to special 2 Infernity from your graveyard. It's more revival. You run 3. Then we have Allure of Darkness. Draw 2 cards, banish 1 card. If you do not have any in your hand, send it to the graveyard. It's draw power, plain and simple. You run 3. Contract with the Void is kind of a 2 of. You can honestly run it at 1 or not at all. When you have 3 other cards in hand, you can discard your hand and then summon an Infernity monster or level 8 Dark Synchro from your graveyard. It's more revival that dumps your hand. Why would you not want it? 1 monster reborn, summon something from either player's graveyard. More revival. Paranoia is pretty good. You can tribute a dark monster, then summon 1 Infernity from your deck or graveyard with the same level, but a different name, but negates effects. And then during the main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to target an Infernity monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Essentially, it makes Tour Guide even more useful. Use Tour Guide, summon Conjurer, send Conjurer with Paranoia to summon Wildcat, and then bring back Conjurer. It's great. Into the Void is at 1, so you run 1, obviously. If you have 3 or more cards in hand, draw 1 more card, and during the end phase, you discard your entire hand. It's just more ways to dump your hand. Speaking of more ways to dump your hand, here's Wave Motion Inferno, featuring Infernity Archfiend doing a T-pose. Because why not? While you have no cards in hand, face up Infernity monsters you control gain 400 attack and defense, and you can send it to the graveyard to dump your hand. You run 3. It's not really necessary with all the dumping cards, but it can be useful. Then we have Infernity Launcher. This card is also broken. You can dump once per turn. You can send 1 Infernity monster from your hand to the graveyard. You can send this card to the graveyard to special summon 2 Infernity monsters if you have no cards in hand. Yeah, you can see why, literally, you summon Archfiend with this. He's on the card art. He's right there. Like, look at him. He's right there. They want you to summon him. Because if you summon Archfiend, you can search another launcher, make a synchro, summon Archfiend again, search another launcher. If you could play more than 1, so you play 1. 2 copies of Dance Dance Revolution, which lets you summon a banished monster. One of your banished monsters, so decent. Void Trap Hole is here. I don't honestly remember why this is in the deck. But it's here, and when your opponent summons a monster with 2,000 or more attack, you can negate the effect of one of those monsters with 2,000 or more attack, and if you do, destroy it. I mean, I don't remember why it's in here, but it is. Next is Infernity Suppression. If you have no cards in your hand, you can activate it the turn it was set. When your opponent activates a monster effect, will you control an Infernity monster, negate the effect, and then you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the activating monster's level times 100. It's decent if your opponent summons something big and you want to just negate and destroy. Negate their effect, then burn them for a ton of damage. It's good. And then Infernity Barrier. When your opponent activates a spell, trap, or monster effect while you control a face-up attack position Infernity monster and have no cards in hand, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Now you might say, gee, that's an awfully specific and complicated activation condition. And then I ask you, did you not pay attention to the fact the entire archetype dumps its hand? Using Archfiend and Launcher, you could basically set 3 of these on your first turn to negate basically anything your opponent does. So yeah, you run 3. In the extra deck, we've got BLs of the Diabolical Dragons. 1 Dark Tuner, that's a Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds thing. It's complicated, but just any tuner monster that is dark. Can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and if you take damage from an attack involving it, or an opponent's card effect, it gains attack equal to the damage you took. So, Can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. It's got 3,000 attack, and it just gets stronger. Nice. Next up, Void Ogre Dragon. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card while you have no cards in hand, quick effect, you can negate the activation if you do destroy it. It's more disruption, and it works with having no hand. Then we come to the crown jewel of the deck, 100 Eyes Dragon. 1 Dark Tuner and 1 or more non-tuner Fiend-type monsters. Once per turn, you can banish 1 level 6 or lower Dark Effect monster from your graveyard until the end of the turn. This card's name becomes the banished monster's name. Replace this effect with the banished monster's original effect, and if it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can add an Earthbound Immortal monster from your deck to your hand. We don't play an Earthbound Immortal monster because they're bad. But we'll talk about... But 100 Eyes is great because you can use it to copy Mirage Engrave, tribute this to summon 2 more Infernities, and then use DDR to summon back Mirage, since it only can't be summoned from the grave, not the banished zone. Then there's Infernity Doom Dragon. You run it because it has Infernity in the name. If you have no cards in hand, you can destroy a monster your opponent controls and inflict damage equal to half its attack. It can't attack the turn you activate this effect. You never really make this unless you're in a situation where you'd want to have a level 8 Synchro on field that has Infernity in its name, and you have no other options. Then we've got Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can banish it when it destroys an effect monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard. It gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack and can also make a second attack on a monster during this battle phase. Again, it's pretty good because it's a Dark Synchro. Why do we care about Dark Synchros? Because we care about Infernity Hell Archfiend. Once per turn, you can target one face-up card in the field and negate its effects until the end of this turn. Then if you have no cards in hand, you can destroy it. While you have no cards in hand, if this card battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage this card inflicts to your opponent is doubled. A Dark Synchro monster summoned using this card's material can make 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. Basically, you want to get Hell Archfiend out as soon as possible. It's negation and destruction. And when you go into any of your level 8 Synchros, they get to attack twice. Plus, you can copy it with 100 Eyes' effect to then blow up another card and inflict double battle damage with 2 attacks. It's crazy. Then I have High Speed Roid Chambara. It can make a second attack. When it battles, it gains 200 attack. Does some stuff with Speedroids that we don't really play. It's a level 5 Synchro, and sometimes you have to do what you can. Then we have Armory Arm, which is one of my favorite Synchros of all time. Once per turn, you can either target one monster on the field, equip this card to that target, or unequip this card and special summon it in an attack position. While equipped by this effect, that target gains 1,000 attack. If that target destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the destroyed monster in the graveyard. So, it boosts you by 1,000, lets you blow up your opponent's monsters to deal extra burn damage, and Infernities can pretty consistently make this and a level 8 Synchro, preferably 100 Eyes with Hell Archfiend, to deal a massive amount of battle damage. You only run 1 because the extra deck's a little packed. And then 3, Leviair the Sea Dragon. 2 level 3 monsters, once per turn, detach 1 material, target one of your banished level 4 or lower monsters, special summon it to your field. It brings back any of your allure targets, anything you might have banished for 100 Eyes. It brings back Conjurer if it's banished for its effect, anything you banish for Wildcat, Patriarch if you banish it for its effect, Mirage if you banish it with 100 Eyes. It does good. So now we're going to get into the replays, and I don't have any spooky music, so we're just going to play Big Shot by Toby Fox.